when I've introduced him before, I've introduced him as Mr. Houston. I grew up remembering the commercials where there was dollars flying out of the pocket. I remember hearing 6006 I-45 North between Tidwell and Marker. And now he has 3 locations. This individual has done more for our city than most. I can say I love him, I appreciate him, and he's the spirit of our city. He embodies it with his grace, with his leadership. I was 18 years old, graduated high school in Katy. I needed some furniture, so I went to I-45 North between Tidwell and Parker. I parked my truck, I walked inside, I read a book called Raving Fans, talked about a Leo Varney. I walked in and I saw this man standing there at his store, welcoming every guest. That individual, some know him as Mattress Mack, others know him as Jim McInvale. Please welcome your keynote speaker.
I do speeches all over the country, all over the world. I'm not often intimidated, but having to follow Brad Smith is very intimidating. He was outstanding. Thank you for those wonderful words, Brad. It really made me think. I don't know where you were this past Sunday morning when somebody told you that Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash. And it made us all think about the fragility of life. How could somebody as athletic as Kobe, as full of life as Kobe, and really a good guy, be taken in the prime of his life? I think that's one of the things we're here to talk about today is the Super Bowl of caring, making a difference in our lives. I think of great Houstonians like Bob and Janice McNair, who have set such an incredible example. I got a piece of mail today from Texas A&M, the Bush Library, and it said, "Lead by example." Bob and Janice McNair have led by example in our city for decades, and they set such a great role model for all of us to try to follow. I see the Straight family there, and the incredible role models they've been in our city, and how families like the McNairs and the Straights, they give and they give and they give and they give, and they make Houston and they make Texas and they make the country a better place. And one of the things I've learned as I go on in my life, I'm at the front of that store all the time, and I see people come in, all ethnicities, all income levels, and so often I see people come in that have not had the privileges that you and I were granted, and weren't taught a work ethic, they didn't get a great education, and they didn't learn how to financially manage their life. And then those non-skills are transferred to the next generation, to the next generation. It's a multi-generational thing. But when a great organization like Super Bowl of Caring feeds that family or helps the Houston Food Bank, it's also multi-generational. It benefits families for years to come. It benefits families for years to come and makes the world a better place. Because one day, like Kobe, we'll all be called to meet our Maker. I was in Las Vegas yesterday at the furniture market, and one of my friends there from California, he knew Kobe, and he told me about how he went to the Catholic Church every Sunday morning. And he'd been that Sunday morning before he got on the helicopter. And he said many times in that Catholic church, there would be tourists in the Catholic church attending Mass, and they would pass him a piece of paper to get an autograph. He would politely decline because he was there to worship. But now Kobe's gone. One of these days, we will all be gone. The question is, what will our legacy be that we've left for the future? I want to tell you a story today about one of my heroes in life, and then this story relates back to September 2nd, 1944. It was on the USS aircraft carrier San Jacinto. I was at the San Jacinto Monument making a speech a couple of months ago, and as you walked up those 33 steps, you could feel the Texas history right there. If you haven't been, I encourage you to go. Anyway, on the USS San Jacinto that Saturday morning, September 2nd, 1944, the youngest ever naval aviator was charged with a very difficult mission. He was to take his Avenger aircraft with the two crewmates in the back on a mission and fly across the Pacific and bomb the Japanese-controlled island, Chichijima Island. There was a radio tower on there, and his mission was to destroy that radio tower. Now, he was quite apprehensive about this mission because the day before, several pilots on that very aircraft carrier had been shot down as they tried to bomb that radio tower. However, George Herbert Walker Bush had been taught by his parents those wonderful virtues of God, duty, honor, country, so he strapped up in that aircraft and took off. As he flew across the sea, one of George Bush's favorite sayings was CAVU, Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. It was a cloudless day, you could see to the endless horizon. However, as he got closer to the Japanese island, anti-aircraft flak started filling up the air. As he got close to the island, all of a sudden his plane was hit by one of those bombs, and he thought to himself, my God, we're going down. Undaunted, he kept that airplane on the track to the island and finally made it to the island and dropped the bombs, partially damaging that radio tower, and then roared off to sea. Smoke and flames were filling up the airplane. He couldn't talk on the radio to the guys in the back because the radio wasn't working. As the smoke and fire got so bad in the airplane, he turned the airplane upside down and screamed for his two crewmates to hit the silk. Hit the silk is naval parlance for bailout. He flew upside down for a while. He assumed they'd bailed out. Then he righted the airplane and kept going. When the smoke and fire filled up his cockpit, he turned the airplane over and ejected himself out of the airplane. He was pushed back by the force of the wind, and he hit his head on the tail of the airplane, gashed open his head. As he was plummeting toward the Pacific Ocean, he pulled the two ripcords on his parachute. Only one of them opened, and he hit the sea at a very high rate of speed and plummeted down into the water 20 or 30 feet, ingesting salt water all the way down. Then he fought his way back to the surface. As he was fighting his way back to the surface, he was stung by jellyfish many times, and then he was bobbing in the ocean, frantically searching all across the ocean, see if he could find his two crewmates. Up above, there was a firefight going on between the Japanese and the American aircraft, and one of the American aircraft saw the sailor down there, and he dropped a raft that inflated, and George Bush frantically swam the 200 yards in the ocean and got in the raft. He was laying in the raft face down, and the tide was pushing his raft toward Chichijima Island, which was an island famous for cannibalism to American pilots. So George Herbert Walker Bush lay in the raft, face down on his stomach, vomiting over the side and paddling furiously, trying to keep away from that island. Finally, after a couple hours, a periscope stuck through the ocean, and it was the USS submarine Finback, and they picked up George Herbert Walker Bush. When he got on the submarine, all he wanted to know was, where are my two crewmates? Did they make it? Where are my two crewmates? Are they alive? And he was devastated to know that his two crewmates had perished. He was 19 years old. For the next 75 years of his life, George Herbert Walker Bush woke up every morning and said only two words. Those two words were, why me? Why me? Why am I still alive when my crewmates are dead and so many of my shipmates are dead? Why me? Why am I lucky enough to live in Midland, Texas in a small apartment with my wife Barbara and my young son George, trying to get established in the free enterprise system in the oil and gas business here in Texas? Why me? Why am I a freshman congressman from Houston? Why me? Why am I head of the CIA for the United States? Why me? Why am I vice president of the United States? Why am I so lucky? And when George Bush was defeated by Bill Clinton, when he was running for his second term as president of the United States, no president ever was more welcoming to the incoming family than George Herbert Walker Bush and Mrs. Bush were to the Clintons. In fact, it is said that George Bush became a surrogate father to Bill Clinton. Why me? Why am I so lucky to be in this country? And as we think about Super Bowl Sunday, the festivities, the football game, the commercials, the halftime show, quite often we don't think about those people that are homeless. My child Elizabeth has severe mental illness. And every time we drive by a homeless person, she says, Mom or Dad, I'm one family away from being right there. When was the last time you or I had hunger pains because we had nothing to eat in our home or our apartment, or were on the streets and had nothing to eat? I would venture to say none of us in the room can remember that. But every day, all across Houston, all across Texas, all across this country, indeed all across the world, people go to bed hungry every night. I have a wonderful friend of mine. His name is Ellis Williamson. He flew an Avenger aircraft that bombed Omaha Beach on D-Day. His assignment in the Air Corps was to fly 65 missions, and then he could come home. On his 62nd mission, he was shot down over Nazi Germany, and out of the 12 crewmen on there, only 4 survived. He was one. He landed in the snow, and the Nazis were 30 feet away with their guns pointing at him. And that was in September. He weighed 188 pounds. 2 months later, Ellis weighed 108 pounds. For 2 months, he ate snow and tree bark. None of us have ever experienced that, but people in our community do. And the wonderful work that Super Bowl for Hunger does is something we should all support with our pocketbooks and by bringing groceries to people who can get those groceries to the many food banks here in Houston. I'm filming this speech today, so we're going to put it on galleryfurniture.com, and I ask all the customers over Super Bowl weekend to bring sacks of food or money donations so we can support Super Bowl of Caring and raise even more money for this worthy cause. Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, we're all going to meet our Maker. I got a letter today from a customer. It said, the reason we support you is because you support people of all faces. Super Bowl of Hunger supports people of all faces. Let's give generously to Super Bowl of Hunger, so that one of these days, when we meet our Maker, he will greet us with those words that I believe he greeted President Bush with, and Mrs. Bush, and Mr. McNair with, and those words were, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Thanks very much.